Her name is Laura Loomer. She is a free speech advocate as well as a former candidate for U.S. Congress from the state of Florida. Laura Loomer is joining me now on the live and on camera. Good morning, Laura. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So, a lot of big news items for us to discuss. I definitely want to get into the Marjorie Taylor Greene and Milo Yiannopoulos story in just a moment. But first, we're all curious just kind of what your connection is to Kanye West.
So I was, texting with Kanye earlier this week, following, I guess, the dinner that I saw transpire at Mar-a-Lago. I had some concerns about Milo Yiannopoulos running his campaign and, his intentions, of course, for trying to run Ye's campaign, given the fact that Milo doesn't have any experience running campaigns. But also, I just felt that it was kind of a form of exploitation. And I had reached out to Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, because I just wanted to express my concern and share some information with him because I don't want to see him get exploited or taken advantage of. I support President Donald Trump and his 2024 announcement for president. I've already endorsed him. I voted for President Donald Trump in 2016 and in 2020. But my purpose of reaching out to Ye was just concern.
I understand. So, it perfectly understandable to be concerned because Milo has stated in the past that he wants to destroy the Republican Party after he was unceremoniously canceled by both the left and the right a number of years ago. But I guess I have to ask you, just to for journalistic sake here, Laura, in regards to what Kanye had to say yesterday. I imagine as a Jewish woman, you might be somewhat disturbed, right?
I certainly don't agree with Ye's comments about him loving Hitler or thinking that we shouldn't be, dissing the Nazis. But my purpose of calling in yesterday after Ye said, oh, let's have Laura Loomer call in, was to express my support for free speech. As you just pointed out, I am Jewish. I'm, Jewish woman. I've expressed support for Israel. And I don't agree with everything that Ye has said, but I also am disturbed by his canceling. I'm disturbed by the fact that he was debanked. And as somebody who has also been deplatformed and was really the canary in the coal mine for this type of censorship and debanking, I've had my gun rights taken away. These are civil rights issues. This is not just an issue of free speech, but this is now a civil rights issue, a civil rights crisis, if you'd call it that, in our country. And it's a result of our politicians and elected officials picking and choosing which parts of the Constitution they decide to implement or follow or uphold, which is what they were all supposed to take an oath to do, to uphold and legislate, not according to their personal opinions about what they find to be favorable or what they think is distasteful, but rather to uphold the United States Constitution. And so it doesn't matter whether somebody is a Holocaust denier. It doesn't matter if somebody idolizes Hitler. It doesn't matter if somebody, is a full-blown racist or an anti-Semite. Here in America, we need to uphold and protect free speech for everybody. And once you start making exceptions for who can speak and who can't, it's a very dangerous, slippery slope. And I may not agree with everything that he said, but I will certainly fight for his right to be able to say it.
Well, it's very brave of you to do so, Laura, and I absolutely do agree with you. I think that at the most important time when you defend free speech or defend rights is when you defend the rights of people that you disagree with. One small example: when I ran for president in 2016, I defended the right of the Christian baker to not have to bake the cake for the gay couple, but I disagree with him. I think I would have set up a cake shop next door and made the biggest, most homosexual cake anyone had ever seen. But I defended the religious liberty of the religious person to have their rights on their private property. Now, moving on here to the big news, the question of the accusations that you made against Marjorie Taylor Greene. Many people see her as a huge backer of Donald Trump. Certainly, when it comes to her votes in Congress, even hardcore libertarian Republicans like myself, Laura, are kind of shocked at just how good she is on the issues. She says that she's a supporter of Donald Trump, but you don't seem to think so.
Is she really good on the issues, though? I mean, you say you're shocked as to how good she is or supposedly is on the issues, but what actually is her record? I mean, when we're talking about accountability and certainly You can appreciate what I do for a living as an investigative journalist, holding elected officials accountable, right? This is a woman who, claims, right, that she's anti-vaccine, yet she owns stock in Pfizer and she owns stock in some of the other vaccine manufacturers. This is a woman who has made a lot of money stock trading since being in Congress. She claims to be against, spending and, these ridiculous aid packages to Ukraine, which appears to be some type of money laundering operation. And yet she has no problem investing in more defense stocks after receiving her briefing regarding the Ukraine-Russia war. This is a woman who claimed and campaigned on, cleaning out the swamp and being a thorn in the side of the establishment, which is why I was once one of her biggest cheerleaders. I've donated to her campaign. I campaigned for her. I was one of her biggest advocates, but I no longer can support Marjorie Taylor Greene, especially given her recent hypocritical endorsement of one of the most disgusting and despicable swamp monsters of all. I'm talking about Kevin McCarthy, who must never become Speaker of the House. But she also just doesn't really have integrity when it comes to telling the truth about her own operations as a congresswoman. Milo Yiannopoulos, who is now Ye's campaign manager, he is the one who described being the architect of this dinner at Mar-a-Lago and is now talking to NBC News and other publications about how he set up Donald Trump to make him look bad. Yet Marjorie Taylor Greene hired Milo Yiannopoulos to be an intern in her office. And I have reason and evidence that suggests that reason to believe in evidence that suggests that Milo Yiannopoulos is still working with her, despite her claims that he's not. I also have evidence that suggests that Milo Yiannopoulos is actually living in the home of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. And he himself has said that he lives in Rome, Georgia, but has not provided any evidence that he purchased the home that he's claiming that he purchased himself, because he's living with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
If you're just tuning in, I'm speaking to free speech activist, civil rights activist now, Laura Loomer. She ran for the U.S. Congress in the state of Florida, got a lot of support. She's a very MAGA Republican and a supporter of President Donald Trump. So you think that Donald Trump was set up and that Kanye is really being manipulated by people like Milo? What's your take on this Nick Fuentes character?
Well, I've known Nick Fuentes for years, and I think that Nick originally just kind of wanted to have a meeting with Ye. I've, had communications with Nick for years, so I know that he is a genuine fan of Ye's. And prior to all of this, he was always a very outspoken supporter of President Trump's. That's why he named his show America First off of, Donald Trump's America First policies. And I think that Milo Yiannopoulos is not only manipulating and taking advantage of Ye, but I think he also manipulated Nick. There was a post by Nick on his Telegram where he was disputing what Milo told NBC, and he said this is not true. So it's like Milo is trying to drag Nick into this and say that Nick set up Donald Trump, but Nick is denying that he set up Donald Trump. But I do believe Milo, because when he says that he, as an individual, set Donald Trump up, because his own posts have been anti-Trump for years. And so I don't agree with everything that Nick has said. Certainly, I don't agree with everything he said about Jews and the Holocaust. However, I'm a free speech absolutist, and I think that there's a few people in this country that have experienced the type of political persecution and targeting that Nick Fuentes and I have both experienced. We've both been debanked. We've both been banned on social media. He's been called an anti-Semite and a white supremacist. I've been called anti-Muslim. I mean, they even call me an anti-Semite and a white supremacist, laughably, even though I'm Jewish. So, there's no rhyme or reason to the insanity of the left and the cancel culture mob. But I find it to be despicable that Nick can end up on a no-fly list simply because of his political viewpoints. I find it despicable that the FBI illegally red flagged me after I confronted James Comey at his book signing. So we're living in a cancel culture society. We're living in a police state. We don't have free and fair elections. We don't have a free marketplace anymore. We certainly don't have free speech, and we certainly don't have freedom of association when you can be canceled and have your whole livelihood destroyed, and you can end up on a government watch list and an FBI terror watch list like Nick and I have simply because of your political viewpoints. We've never even committed an act of violence. So I sympathize with Nick for that. And I can fight for somebody's right to free speech without agreeing with everything that they say.
Absolutely. And how can we fight against bad ideas if those bad ideas aren't allowed to have the light of day? We should be having an open debate about the things that Nick Fuentes and Kanye West and other people are saying. I think that you only embolden the speech when you censor it, and you actually, and then what happens is that when people like yourself, calling yourself the canary in the coal mine, you now find yourself sort of defending people who have views that I think are completely antithetical to what you believe when it comes to the Holocaust and
Yeah.
when it comes to Jews. If anything, I think they've made an enormous mistake by doing so. If you're just tuning into the
I'll
yeah,
also just say that I think that it's unfair to say that Nick Fuentes and Ye hate all Jews because, as you pointed out, I ran for Congress in Florida, and Nick Fuentes had actually endorsed my campaign specifically because I am a free speech absolutist. And so he
yeah,
actually flew to Florida and was at my election night party on the night of my election and expressed his support for me, even though people attacked him for supporting a Jew. And so I think that like I said, I don't agree with everything that he says, but clearly he doesn't hate all Jews because he knows that I'm Jewish and has obviously acknowledged that. And I also don't think that Ye hates all Jews. I think that sometimes there's generalizations simply because, the people who are behind cancel culture, not saying that it's only Jews pushing cancel culture, but what does the ADL expect, right? When the ADL is partnering with YouTube and calling for the banning of people they
yeah.
disagree with.
There's
So,
plenty of white liberals who push for cancel culture.
yeah.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here this morning joining us live. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon so that you can know when we go live on the show. Laura, I think I have to ask you this. You know Kanye better than a lot of people. Is he okay? I guess my concern is that if it's not true anti-Semitism, all the things that he's spouting and saying, it makes it seem like he's deeply disturbed. Is he okay?
I actually don't know him that well. I only began conversing with him this week. And so, I'm
Okay.
going to pretend like I've had, a multi-year relationship with him. I know that Candace Owens is very good friends with him. I'm also not a psychiatrist. And so I don't think that it's, appropriate for me to play armchair psychiatrist and try to diagnose people when I don't have a medical degree to do so. I think that Ye is an artist and he's very passionate about what he believes in. And so I think that you would have to ask Ye.
Yeah.
But obviously, this is a man who is suffering. He has said that he is experiencing a lot of pain and trauma from the breakup of his family. He recently went through a divorce, which I'm sure is very traumatic. And also, he's been canceled and smeared. And I know what it's like to be portrayed as a demon in the media and to be demonized and have everybody making you out to be a monster when that's not the case. I certainly don't think that he's a hateful person. I think that he's made some controversial comments, but he certainly never killed anybody. And it's ironic that there are people who actually have committed violent crimes in our society, and yet you have liberal DAs and prosecutors, trying to idolize these people. I mean, look at the treatment of somebody like a George Floyd, who was a drug addict and put a gun to a pregnant woman's belly, and yet every politician and corporation in the country tried to idolize this career criminal and drug addict, and yet there's this open season, right, to cancel and demonize Ye, who made a few controversial comments. So I just think that we're living in a backwards society, and there's a lot of hypocrisy, especially from our politicians and the corporations and big tech.
I agree. Laura Loomer, free speech activist, former congressional candidate. Is there anything else that you think that our listeners should know before we let you go?
Well, I've been posting a lot of information about obviously my expose into Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I am a free speech absolutist. I have a lawsuit right now that's currently been filed against Facebook and Twitter, Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg. It's a RICO case. And so if people want to follow me in my endeavors, they can go to loomered.com and you can subscribe to my Gab and my Getter, my Truth Social and Parler at Laura Loomer, and I'm on Telegram at Loomered Official.
Laura, thank you for being so generous with your time and your presence this morning. We're certainly grateful. Keep up the good fight. We hope to have you back again real soon.